Right, I'm Dave Kaplan, chairman of Telford. Former chairman of Telford. Mace Isaacson here, chairman of Telford. And we want to welcome you today for what is a very, very important protest. I want to thank firstly the members of both our committees that went to shul this morning to pray for no rain. We'll know during the course of the next hour whether they prayed hard enough. We also have some South African flags here, and why we had it available here is because we want to make it quite clear that today is not a protest against South Africa or the people of South Africa. It is a protest against this bloody government of South Africa right now. Busha, it's a shame. The last time I protested against a South African government, and it may apply to many of you here today, was going back 40, 50 years ago. It was the previous government, and it was against apartheid. So, Mr. Jeremy Coleman, who says Jews don't understand irony? I am very proud here today to stand here as an Israeli. I'm very proud here to be living in Israel at this particular time. Very proud. But I'm equally very, very ashamed at the government of my previous country, South Africa, the way it has abysmally behaved in going to the court at The Hague and categorizing Israel as having committed genocide. It has sunk so low, and that is why we are here today. When the South African Minister of Foreign Affairs, Naledi Pandor, came out of the courtroom at The Hague and said, quote, "I could not stand idly by." Well, our answer to her is, and why we're here today, we too could not stand idly by. And that is why we've come out, which we thought would be the rain, and even in the cold we feel warm and hot with anger. For what South Africa has done nothing less than perpetrated a blood libel. It is a shame, and as we say in Hebrew, busha. South Africa has joined that shameful list of countries that have besmirched, identified and defiled having orchestrated this blood libel. And I want to refer to, and you would have seen it in a video clip that went viral this week by the mayor of Rishon LeZion, who you saw with a crane removing the South African flag. His name is Raz, if I can pronounce it, Kinstilich, who said the following, the mayor: "We've decided the flag of South Africa that has flown until now, together with the flag of the 32 countries that voted in favor of establishing a Jewish state in 1947, will be removed immediately. Zero tolerance towards those who seek harm to us. Am Israel Chai." How could he do otherwise? He then went on to say, after South Africa accused us of genocide, after the massacre we went through on October the 7th, and emphatically he said, we won't forgive and we won't forget. South Africa should be in the dock, for it has a case to answer to the Jewish people. It was so pointedly put by our judge, the Israeli judge at the court in The Hague, when he put and said that South Africa has sought to impute the crime of Cain to Abel. When Hamas attacked Israel, it's war. Israel defends itself, it's a war crime to South Africa. And to quote the chief rabbi, who would like to have been here today, he only arrived this morning, a message here, a line, says Chief Rabbi Warren Goldstein, "These are defamatory lies against the Jewish state, which mark the Jews for discrimination, persecution, and ultimately annihilation. In other words, the murder of the Jews." I never thought I would say this, But the South African government, that's with the party of the great Mandela, is now a clear and present danger to Jews. Our message today to Hamas and to South Africa, I want to quote a line from the great Israeli diplomat Abba Eban, who said, "Israel's future will be longer than its past." On that note, I want to call our first speaker, Chairman of Telfed. Maish is well known to the city, former deputy mayor, volunteer policeman, volunteer medical clown, Meyer Hospital. But today is no laughing and no clowning matter. Maish Isaacson.
Thank you, David. On the 7th of October, in response to pure evil, all sectors of Israeli society stood united to protect, rebuild, and repair our country and people. The South African government does not represent the majority of South Africans, nor does it represent their position in this terrible war that we have been forced into. As chairman of Telfed, I've been immensely proud of the South African Olim community, active members of Israeli society who have been involved in a multitude of activities, from protecting our borders and communities, to feeding our soldiers, hosting evacuees, volunteering on farms, visiting the wounded soldiers, and much more. These are the values that we hold dear: giving back, volunteering, kindness, resilience, and Zionism. Together with Telfed Vice Chairman Debbie Dash, CEO Deron Klein, Directorate and staff, I had the privilege to meet families who lost loved ones, relatives of hostages, and former South Africans who have been displaced for almost 4 months. We have visited the sites of the attacks, the Moshavim, the Kibbutzim, Zikim Beach, and the site of the Nova Festival, to bear witness to the atrocities committed. I've seen true genocide committed by Hamas and its followers, with whom the South African government side and praise. It is a disgrace that the South African government, the puppet of Iran, has seen fit to take Israel to the ICJ. We, as proud former South Africans, are embarrassed, shamed, and disgusted by the South African government's actions, and distance ourselves from them. I encourage the leaders of South Africa to come and speak to ex-South Africans in Israel, to hear their first-hand accounts of the terror, to console those who lost loved ones, and to comfort and support those who still have loved ones in captivity. It saddens us to see the leaders of our country of birth wasting their time on misguided agendas, rather than seeking the truth and speaking the truth. Israel is a vibrant democracy fighting a war that it never asked for. We at Telfed have been able to provide both emotional and financial support in this time of crisis to South African Olim and their Israeli counterparts. As former South Africans living in Israel, we can and do hold our heads up high and take pride in what we are doing. We are a remarkable community because of our South African roots, and we have the honor and privilege of being part of the nation of Israel. We mourn those who have fallen in this war, pray for a refuah shlema for those wounded, and pray that our soldiers and captured come home soon. Am Yisrael Chai!
I now call upon Ruth Wasserman-Landy. Ruth is a former MK, I'm sure a future MK for the blue and white. Ruth is well known, absolutely. Ruth is well known, or should be well known to our South African community. She is a former matriculate of Hertzlier School, Cape Town. I think arrived in South Africa at the age of 9. There you are. Hasn't quite got a South African name. Oh, you have maybe a little bit. Very small. Ruth is also was the deputy ambassador in Cairo, fluent in Arabic, and is coming to address us today on, as you know, very important matter. All yours.
Thank you. Hi everyone. I wish we could have met in different circumstances. I want to say thank you for calling on all of these wonderful people to come and stand together for things that are truly important, values that are truly important. You know, I was asked to speak to the South African Broadcasting Corporation for an interview several months ago. This was before October 7th. And I agreed. Everything that I'm asked to do regarding South African community, the Jewish community in South Africa, I always agree. And I had a really long interview with actually a lovely person who knew absolutely nothing about Israel, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the region, the complexities, but the truly lovely person, he really was a lovely person, had a very clear opinion about what was going on here. And very slowly and very patiently I tried to explain that which is probably inexplicable unless you want to understand. And I did feel at the end of the 45 long, tedious minutes that he did understand, that he wanted to understand, that there was a kind of an opening towards our narrative, that it's not exactly the way that it looks. And then he called me a couple of days later and he said, you know, the interview is not going to be shown because my bosses think that it's too long. And then I quite understood that it's not that the South African people don't want to know. It's not that they know and they don't want to understand. There is a decision made by the government of South Africa at the moment, the ANC, to vilify Israel no matter what. And let's not confuse them with the facts. And again, this was before October 7th. You know, there was another group that came here by the South African Jewish Board of Deputies of young black students from Wits University. There were about 30 or 40 of them. Again, before October 7th. I spoke to them for 2.5 hours. We even danced together. They taught me this dance of the ANC, believe it or not. Yes, exactly. He's doing it really well. And you know what? They started out so hateful. I mean, I cannot even portray. I stayed in Cairo for 3 whole years. Cairo is an Arab country with not a little indoctrination and incitement against Jews and Israel. And even there, I didn't feel as much vented anger towards Israel and our narrative. But slowly, there was a kind of an opening. Because, you know, people, when they are faced with real people, with us, with reality, if they come and see, if they feel, they see the truth. And you know, all of us know, the truth is on our side. That's why I'm never afraid to speak to anyone at any time. It's easy. The truth is on our side. And what is poisoning South Africa, friends, is Iran, that has been systematically, for years, working its way, weaving its way rather, towards influencing countries in general in the African continent, and in South Africa in particular. They've been working this issue for years. This is not something that happened overnight. And the South African government, led by the ANC, has literally sold its soul to Iran. This is what is happening in South Africa. And I want all the South African people, the good people of South Africa, to know that not only do they get corruption from the South African government, but that the South African government has sold them to Iran, to extremism, to a hateful, atrocious, terrorist organization like Hamas. There's no question that what was done on October 7th is nothing less than a genocide, an attempt to eliminate, to scare, to terrorize, gang rapes, murders, massacres, burnings, and they dare to take us to an international court, an army that experts, international experts, are saying that is taking the maximum amount of measures against hurting civilians, killing indiscriminately children, women, the elderly. We have 136 women, children, elderly, hostage. And South Africa is saying that Israel is committing genocide. It's more than a busha. They should look at the South African people, all of the South African people, in shame, put down their heads. Where are the toilets for the children in the periphery in South Africa? Where is the infrastructure and education for the people of South Africa? Why are you selling yourselves to Hamas, to Iran, that has an extremist, Shiite, Islamic agenda, which is against the West, against the US, against Canada, Australia, England, Europe, and of course Israel. I made Aliyah from South Africa on my own as a Chayelet Bodeda at the age of 17. And I've always been proud to say that I came from South Africa to Israel. And I'm still proud. I'm still proud. Because there are many millions of South Africans that want to hear the truth. The truth is taken away from them, like many in the world. And I salute you for coming today because you care about putting the truth out there. We won't make up with the lies. We won't put our heads down because we have the truth. We have the truth. We have God. We have Israel, Baruch Hashem. And we have our pride. And we are proudly Jewish. I'm proud to say that I'm Jewish. Kol hakavod to all of you for standing here, for holding our flags. Baruch Hashem that we have such a beautiful community. And we will remain proud. We will remain with our heads high because the truth is on our side. Shabbat Shalom everyone, and God bless.
Thank you, Ruth. All of us, we wake up each day, each morning, and the first thing we do, turn on the news, look in the newspaper, and we fear who fell the day before, our precious soldiers. This is what we are met with on a daily basis. When the news broke and it became clear that there were 2 South Africans that were also murdered on that day, what did South Africa do? What did Ramaphosa, President Ramaphosa, and the South African government do? They did nothing. Well, that's not quite true. It didn't do nothing. It made contact with Hamas and offered support, and that is a busha. Busha. I'm now going to call up on the one South African family that lost their child in the battle here in Gaza was Clive and Debbie Chitters. I'm now going to call upon Clive. Clive, where are you? To address us.
This is a conversation with my son Yaron, Saturday night, 16th of December. Shavua Tov Abba. Shavua Tov, my son. How are you? Always better when I hear from you. How are you? I'm good, thanks. Did you work all day? Yes. We had some Palestinian civilians to deal with. Women, children, men. How did you sort it out? After giving them water, we released the women and children, and we kept the men to question them on activities going on. In my last sort, it says. You obviously can't take any chances. Nachon? Did you find them, or did they come to you? You found them hiding in a basement in a building. They obviously didn't go south as the IDF advised them. Exactly. I told them this is their fault. They were lucky to be alive. Nachon. Did you speak to them in Hebrew? No. English or Arabic? Does every unit have an Arabic speaker? No, but we do. That helped. My son Yaron was killed in action on 26th of December, 1 week before his 24th birthday. The above WhatsApp conversation was one of many that I enjoyed with Yaron during his service in Gaza. An incredibly proud officer in the Givati Brigade, Yaron was part of the 52nd Armored Battalion, regularly going into battle as an officer in charge of a Namir, that's an armored personnel carrier. Days before a Hamas terrorist bullet ended his life, Yaron proudly boasted on his last Shabbat home after 80 days in action in Gaza that his weapon did not fire a bullet in action during his 82 days. The pathetic allegation of charges of genocide against the Israel Defense Forces is an affront to the memory of my son Yaron and the hundreds and thousands of Israeli soldiers who get up every single day to defend our country and protect human life as best as possible. In supporting Hamas, the South African government has yet again aligned itself with national and terror organizations that they themselves practice genocide. The only genocide that did take place occurred on Saturday the 7th of October by thousands of Hamas Palestinians. Israel's right to retaliate was confirmed by the International Court of Justice by the mere fact that it did not call for Israel's ceasefire. As a South African citizen, I am ashamed and disgusted to be associated with the country of my birth, whose government is corrupt, anti-Semitic, and has completely lost its moral compass. My family and I, by the way, my middle son, his wife had a baby, his first child 6 weeks ago, and according to the law, he's allowed to be exempt from reserve duty. He went back as soon as possible to join his unit in Hebron so that he can continue supporting his troops in action as well. That's the mettle of us Israelis. We're the proudest South African family living in Israel. We are Israelis, and please God, we will all celebrate happy times together. Am Yisrael Chai.
In honor of those fallen soldiers and civilians, the casualties and the hostages, I call upon Richard Savachion and daughter Tanya to lead us in memoriam.
Good morning, friends. This war is personal for every single one of us. Whether you are family, direct family of somebody who was murdered or has fallen, such as the Chittis family, whether you know just an acquaintance of an acquaintance, we are all in this together. They are all our brothers and sisters. We cannot feel the pain of the Chittis and all the other families, but we are with them. It became very personal for our family on the very first morning when two of the sons of our beloved local rabbi and a good friend and neighbor, Rabbi Shmuel and Tali Slotki, instinctively and spontaneously picked up their small arms and traveled to the Otef. Noam and Yishai Slotki fell at the gates of Alumim, but they, together with the Kitat Konanut and soldiers who arrived later, saved 500 kibbutz members from torture and rape and abduction and murder. What the South African government, their prosecutors, or should I say persecutors, together with all of their cronies around the world, refuse to consider is that we count our heroes by the lives that they have saved, whereas as our savage enemy count their heroes by the lives that they have taken. They have sided with a cult of hate and death. We are a nation of love and life. In those few fraught days after the 7th of October, our congregation, like many shuls around the world, added the Avinu Malkeinu Tefillah to our regular prayers. And it struck me that there were many lines in that tefillah that to me seemed to be archaic. They seemed to be of Inquisition and of Holocaust and of pogrom and of crusade. But at that moment they became all the more relevant. So I wrote a melody to that song. It is a song that's born out of sorrow and distress, but it is also a prayer of hope for a time where our enemy will be vanquished, when the world will understand And when Israel can live in peace, all of us, our great nation, in this country of our forebearers and of our children. My daughter Tanya Yusupov will sing the song. Thank you to Eran Klein for the instrumentals. Yes, Avinu Malkeinu in a time of war, Avinu Malkeinu be'et hazor.
Dr. Ephraim Zuroff is Director of the Israel Office and Chief Nazi Hunter of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, which is based in Los Angeles. He has dedicated his life to tracking down and bringing Nazi war criminals and their collaborators to trial. The author of numerous books, prolific writer of articles, and a force to contend with in bringing uncomfortable truths about complicity of non-Germans in the Shoah. If anyone knows anything about genocide, about real genocide, it is Dr. Ephraim Zuroff. Ephraim?
Thank you, David. Thank you, all of you, for coming out. It's very important, and I'm sure you all realize this. I want to put things in some sort of historical perspective. I don't know, many of you, judging by your ages, remember the famous Zionism is racism. That the UN passed the resolution, and Chaim Herzog, our representative to the United Nations, had the perfect answer and simply tore up in the middle of the General Assembly the resolution that Zionism is racism. Even when we deal with the subject of genocide, there is tremendous confusion, and I want to tell you about two examples that took place in recent years that show that even though it's very ostensibly clear what genocide is, which is the attempt to wipe out an entire people, nation, etc., it has not been the accusations of genocide have not always been accurate. Very far from it. And I'll give you two examples. One from the African continent. In 1994, when the Hutus began murdering the Tutsis in Rwanda, the United States, President Bill Clinton decided that what was going on in Rwanda was not genocide. Now, I think all of us know, and in retrospect, certainly we know the facts, that was a classic case of genocide. Why didn't the Americans declare genocide? Because Clinton didn't want to send American soldiers to save black people. A second example is the case of Srebrenica. Srebrenica was a incident in the wars of Yugoslavia in which a large group of Bosnian Muslims were captured by the Serbian forces, and the Serbian forces, by the way, many of these people were combatants, okay, and the Serbian forces, before they did anything, released the women and children and sent them home and saved their lives. And then they took care of the combatants and the others, the Muslim men. Why has Srebrenica been categorized as a genocide? Because America wanted to bomb the Yugoslavs into submission and to get them to stop the wars of the 1990s. It's all politics. This is what you have to understand. Even if the court did decide that what we did is genocide, it's pure bullshit, you'll excuse me. Pure bullshit. So, this is what we have to remember, and as far as my message to you is, you're the last people on earth who should be embarrassed, because you did the right thing. You came here to live in Israel with us, and to live with the Jewish people, and to build the Jewish state, and strengthen the Jewish state, and God bless you all.
I'm now going to call upon my better half, to read a message from South Africa, from the South African Board of Deputies. Hillary Kaplan.
This is a message from Zev Krengel, President of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. When news of October the 7th started becoming known to South African Jewry, our hearts broke. We mourned along with you as we heard of the horrific brutality, the painful losses and the anxiety over those taken hostage by Hamas. For every one of the 118 days since the Hamas massacre, we have cried with you and global Jewry. We have prayed for the safe return of each of our hostages. We have truly learned what the words mean to be Am Echad. Then another traumatic milestone came our way when October the 7th became the 29th of December. with the decision by South Africa to take Israel to the ICJ on baseless and hurtful charges of genocide. Choosing not to apply the international relations principles that they use with all other conflict zones, governments saw different rules for the Jewish state. South Africa has always prided itself on facilitating dialogue and negotiation as ways to resolve disputes. They have always espoused the principles of even-handedness. They went to great effort to explain their close relationship with Russia during the recent invasion and war with the Ukraine as the imperative of talking on both sides. Yet, with the Gaza war, they showed their contempt for Israel from the beginning, declining to condemn Hamas or express sympathy for Israel for a week after the brutal Hamas attacks, even for those victims who were South African citizens. The ANC government exposed their hypocrisy and double standards with their unprecedented, punitive campaign against Israel, aggressive, undiplomatic rhetoric, the closure of the embassy, and of course the ICJ case. What a wasted opportunity for South African diplomacy. Using their close relationship with the Palestinians and Hamas, our government could have argued for the release of the hostages 118 days ago. Imagine how many lives could have been saved had South Africa used the same zeal they used with the ICJ case in getting the hostages released. Jews around the world are experiencing different challenges. The hate of the 7th of October has spread globally, manifesting differently in every diaspora community. What has been so heartwarming has been the incredible unity and support global Jewry have shown to one another. Never before have we understood so well the words of Kol Arifin Zeh B'Zeh as we have in the past 3.5 months. We thank you for coming today, not only to express your outrage to South Africa's appalling treatment of Israel, but also in support of our community. Thank you.
President Cyril Ramaphosa, in lauding South Africa's legal team at The Hague, said, and I quote, "I must say that I have never felt as proud as I felt today when our legal team was arguing the case in The Hague. We, on the other hand, Mr. Ramaphosa, have never felt more disgusted." And I now call upon Harris Green, a member and co-founder of TBT and a close organizer of today's protest. Thank you. Harris.
שלום חברים, ותודה רבה שהגעתם היום לציין את האירוע הזה. מאוד מאוד חשוב שהקהילה כאן בארץ תפגין למען הקהילה בדרום אפריקה. יש לנו עוד כ-40,000 פלוס יהודים שם, ומאוד חשוב שהם ירגישו שיש להם לאן להגיע אם וכאשר יגיע הרגע. I was born in Cape Town. I grew up in Cape Town. I went to school and university in Cape Town. Even after 53 years in Israel, Cape Town and South Africa remain an essential part of who I am, of what I am, and of the values I represent, and I'm so proud to uphold. As a student leader at the University of Cape Town in the mid-60s, I spoke out against the discriminatory evils of apartheid. I did so because they were contrary to the values I was taught at home. I'm here today to speak out against the outrageous behavior of South Africa's government, just as I spoke out against the evils of apartheid. I wasn't forced to leave South Africa. I did so out of choice. I wanted to play a role in rebuilding my ancestral homeland after 2,000 years of national exile, and to make this country a light unto the nations. To this day, I have many friends and family members living in South Africa. I love the people of South Africa and remain captivated by her magnificent vistas and landscapes. I'm concerned for the well-being of all the people of South Africa. My father was born in Cape Town. He volunteered to serve in the South African Army in World War II. My father saw action in East and North Africa, 11,000 kilometers from his home. He suffered severe injuries in the line of duty. He never regretted the personal price he paid to defend his country. He risked his life to fight the racist values propagated by Nazi Germany. He was a proud South African and a true patriot. My father fought the Nazis more than 80 years ago. Today, his great-grandchildren are fighting to crush the same racist and genocidal ideology that calls for the extermination of Jews and denies their right to self-determination. The decision of the South African government to file a complaint against accusing Israel of genocide at the International Court of Justice is outrageous. It's anything but South African. The decision of the South African government to normalize the wanton killings and the perverted rapes provided by her jihadi friends is more than disgusting. And so, I say to the government of South Africa, you are headed in the wrong direction. It's time to make new friends. Your current friends are corrupting your moral fiber. Your actions do not represent the values of the people of South Africa. Wanton killing is savage. Rape is not resistant. It's unacceptable. It's immoral. By so willingly filling the role of the useful idiot, South Africa is now an accomplice to the October 7 massacre. By weaponizing international law against Israel, the South African government has proved it's an active proxy of Iran's jihadi terror machine. I'm shattered. The country I once called home has chosen to become a strategic part of the evil axis that denies my people their right to build their national home in their ancestral homeland. I will not remain silent, neither should you. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you, Harris. Our last speaker is my colleague on TVT, on Lay of the Land, Rolene Marks. Rolene is the national spokesperson for the South African Zionist Federation. Interestingly enough, the South African Zionist Federation was established in 1898. That's something like 14 years, I think, before even the ANC was established in 1912. It just goes to show how embedded Zionism is in South Africa. Representing them here today, ladies and gentlemen, Rolene Marks. Thank you.
Much slower. Thank you. They don't make these things for anybody under 5 feet tall. So the first message I have for you is from Rowan Pollivin. He is the National Chairman of the South African Zionist Federation. Rowan says, I am sorry I can't stand with you in person today in Israel. As a South African and a member of the Jewish community that has done so much for South Africa, it deeply pains me to see our South African government turning against us and supporting Hamas. In the wake of the 7th of October, President Ramaphosa, Minister Pandor, and the ANC government have openly sided with evil. Pandor was quick to speed down Hamas and express his solidarity and sympathies. Ramaphosa and his allies have rarely been out of public without their Palestinian scarves. The ANC government have acted as enablers for Iran's agenda, running a campaign to delegitimize Israel's right to defend herself from those who seek her destruction and to shield Hamas. But they failed. They failed to prevent Israel from defending herself against the actual genocidists. Meanwhile, millions in South Africa are suffering without jobs, water, security, or electricity. The ANC government is more concerned with supporting Hamas than South Africans. They have failed our beloved country, the Jewish community, and millions of ordinary South Africans. Friends, the South African election is looming. As South Africans in Israel, it is essential that you mobilize. Get everyone with South African citizenship registered to vote and turn out in force. Every vote is crucial, especially now as the ANC's grip weakens and its majority narrows. The ANC does not represent South Africa. We, standing on the right side of history because we stand with Israel, are the true voice of South Africa. Am Yisrael Chai, that is from Rowan Polovin, the national chairman of the South African Zionist Federation. Chaverim, Chaverot, it is great to see you all today. You are a sea of pride, strength, and a loud voice against the abhorrent blood libel that the South African government, acting as the legal arm of Iran and Hamas, has instituted against Israel. South Africa, acting on behalf of Iran, has declared legal war against Israel. And our brave warriors of the IDF fighting for our lives, our future. We South Africans who live in Israel will not be silent as the country many of us grew in and helped build engages in warfare against our homeland, the country that gave us wings. We here are all the product of South African roots and Israeli wings. We will not be silent. Many of us here fought apartheid because it went against our morals and our values as Jews and as Zionists. We said, not on our watch. We will not be silent. We were not silent then, and we will not be silent now, as South Africa singles out the only Jewish state for condemnation and opprobrium. It is a betrayal of what we fought for. It is a betrayal of South Africa's noble constitution. We will not be silent. We will not be silent when South Africa accuses Israel of genocide, but is silent about our hostages. Cyril Ramaphosa, you have an open line to Iran and Hamas. If you care about human rights, demand the unconditional and immediate release of our hostages as the International Court of Justice ordered. We will be their voice. Bring them home now. Bring them home now. Bring them home now. To the South African Jewish community feeling vulnerable and uncertain, we stand with you. We stand with you as you stand with us. We are proud Jews, proud Zionists, and we will not be silenced. We will stand taller, stronger, prouder. My friends, when we sing Hatikva in a few moments, sing it so loud. Sing it so loud and with so much pride that you shake the foundations of Parliament in Cape Town, that the union buildings in Pretoria tremble. From Cape Point to the northernmost tip of South Africa, to Tehran and The Hague, let them hear our voices. We are not silent. Am Yisrael Hechai, B'yachad Nenatzeach.
Richard, thank you guys for all coming. Thank you again. Clearly the members of our committee did pray hard enough. The heavens haven't opened. Now I'm going to ask Richard and Tanya to lead us in our tikva. Thank you. Just one announcement. I understand Telford will be organizing another protest next Friday morning at 10:30 outside the closed building of the embassy, of the South African embassy at Abba Hillel Street in Ramat Gan. I believe that will be conducted in Hebrew probably, that you can advise people accordingly. As leads me just to say, and wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.